When I tell people that I had to leave my, six-figure corporate career, when I left my marriage and that I lost everything, we had a $550,000 house, we had a $300,000 house, we had two houses, I had two brand new cars, I had designer bags, makeup. I had everything that, anybody could ever want. But I was in a very abusive marriage. And I prayed to God to rescue me for so long. And cried myself to sleep for years and years and years and never thought that I would have happiness or peace. So when I tell people that, listen, I left everything. I lived in a shelter for 8 months out of the last year. I live in hiding. For a year now, I've lived in hiding. And I am so thankful for it all. People are like, how? Like, are you sure that's your real life? And like, how are you thankful? As it's Holy Week now, Easter's approaching, Passover time just makes me really think about my story and, original Passover. It feels very similar. I definitely call this last year living in hiding, again, 8 months living in a shelter, and losing every material possession that I had because I literally had to leave my house with only the clothes on my back to stay alive. I call it definitely my wilderness season. And in this season, this is where I actually found God. And it was hard because at first I'm like, how am I? Like, I felt like I was being punished. I left my husband. He began stalking me. It got really, really bad. My life was in danger. I had to just leave everything, right? I had to leave my jobs. He was stalking me there too. And to stay alive. And I ran out of money. So I had to go live in shelters. And I just felt like God was punishing me. God hated me. But it was in that time that I actually got close to God, that I actually read my Bible in full, which helped me to understand God. And I had been looking at God like a genie. And I think a lot of people associate material wealth, material items with being blessed. And it's like, to the outsider, yes, I was blessed. I had all these great material things. I had a husband. I had all these things. Like, yes, I was being abused and, degraded and humiliated for 18 years. Yes, I didn't even want to live. And there wasn't any material item that could make me happy. I tried to fill all of the sadness and pain and that void with material items, and it never worked. And it's when God, sat me down and isolated me and allowed me time to get to know him. And more importantly, and why I correspond this to Passover, is in the original Passover, the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and they cried to God for him to rescue them. And he brought upon 10 plagues on Egypt. Pharaoh would not allow them to be free still, even though Moses kept saying, free my people so they can go, worship God, or he's going to bring upon these plagues. He kept bringing upon plagues, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened so much that he would not let them go. He would not let the slaves go. So, that's where we get the original Passover, when the angel of death passed over every Israelite slave and only hit the Egyptian households. But again, I look at myself being freed from bondage, not only the bondage of being in an abusive marriage that I didn't think I was going to be able to get out of, and finally getting out after 18 years and being stalked and having my life in danger. I'm only here because God saved my life, because I should not be here. It's a miracle that I'm alive. So he freed me from that bondage. But outside of that, the bondage of finding my identity in material items, the bondage of, living to work and thinking that success and material wealth is like the be all end all. Like, to me, that was bondage, because I would never know true peace or true joy if that's how I defined it. If material items or material wealth is how I defined peace or joy, it's not real. And the world will have you thinking that it is. It's not. And so the wilderness for me was living in a shelter, not having anything. I didn't have clothes. Like, literally, I had to get clothes donated to me. I didn't have anything. I had to eat whatever they had, and it was a lot of stuff that I didn't like, but I learned to be so grateful, and I learned to truly depend on God. And that was something that the Israelites struggled with. And the thing is, I, again, like, can really understand that story, because as God literally just rescued them from slavery, He heard their cries, He rescued them from slavery, but then He's literally leading them to the promised land. And He takes them on a route that is longer. Like, there was a direct way that would have been shorter, but He knew that they would encounter like different groups who would, fight them and things like that. And He knew that if they encountered a lot of like battles and things, that they'd be like, we just want to turn around and go back to Egypt. Like, this isn't worth it. So He took them the long route to avoid all those conflicts and things. And that's how I feel like my journey is, because like I was literally like physically removed from the area, physically had to leave the state, leave the area, I cut off everybody that I once knew, that I once knew, and literally had to start a whole new life. And it's like God's taken me. It's been a year again. It hasn't been short. It hasn't been quick. 8 months in a shelter. But I know that He is saving me from so much. I know, because I know how my ex is. I know that there were all kinds of plots and plans and attempts to harm me, that I've been rescued from. And so He's taken me this long way. But here's where I also can relate to the Israelites is, like, I remember being in the shelter and like, oh, I have to eat this. Like, this isn't fair. Like, I'm so angry. And that's what they were doing. And it's like, He just rescued you from slavery, and you're complaining and saying like, oh, we're gonna die of thirst, we're gonna die of hunger. At least in Egypt, even though we were slaves, we had food to eat. And it's like, how ungrateful can you be, and how short-sighted can you be? And then like, I'm doing the same thing, because I'm in this shelter complaining because I don't have makeup. I'm in this shelter complaining because I don't have cute clothes. I'm in this shelter complaining literally because I don't like the food. Like, aside from the fact I'm alive, aside from the fact I'm not being abused anymore, aside from the fact that God literally rescued me, I am like literally losing sight of everything because it's uncomfortable. But so really, really opened my eyes. And so once I got past that, and sometimes, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a human. Sometimes I'm still like, I wish I could have like the things that I used to have again. But again, I have to think, like, look at what I was rescued from, look at the peace that I have now, look at the joy that I have now, look at the relationship that I have with God now. He literally let me like just be isolated so that I knew that I could lean on Him, that I wasn't searching for validation, for external validation. I wasn't like chasing a man or anything like that. Like, I know that God's love is enough for me. And so I've been able to lean on Him, to depend on Him. He is my protector. He is my provider. When I didn't know if I was going to have a place to sleep for the night, he provided away. Everything that I've needed has been provided for me. And when you look at the Israelites leaving Egypt to go to the promised land, that's what God literally did. He gave them food every single day. He gave them food that would literally like go bad if they tried to keep it overnight, because he wanted them to understand that they could lean on him. They could depend on him. He would never leave them. He would provide for them every single day. So again, it's been a crazy wilderness season, and who knows how much longer it'll last. And of course there are days I'm like, oh, I just wish I could have a normal life. But again, like who I've become in this wilderness season and the relationship that I have with God now, like I am so grateful for this season in my life. And again, like having a career, having a house, having cars, clothes, whatever, like could never ever compare to the joy that I feel now, the peace that I feel now. And I'm just so incredibly thankful for, God putting me through this to refine me. And I think that so often we look at these periods of, they're literally pruning seasons. Like if God wants you to grow, he's going to have to prune you. He's going to have to remove those things from you, like that are hindering you, that are hindrances. And I used to always think that, like, I was a very proud person. I always thought like, oh, I'm so accomplished, I'm so intelligent, I'm doing all these things in my own strength. And like God had to sit me down and be like, listen, as easily as I gave it to you, I can take it away from you. Everything comes from him. And so literally, again, I just wanted to kind of share that, because I just know it's a really crazy time in the country and the world. A lot of people are experiencing loss. I just want to remind you that no matter what it looks like, God will always provide. And maybe it's not necessarily like the things that you want, but I promise you it's going to be what you need. And I promise you, you're going to look back on it and be like, oh, wow, I see why it had to work out that way. I see how all of this like was part of God's plan, like for my good. What I thought was a loss actually was to benefit me. And so yeah, this is my first time really being this close to God and experiencing Holy Week, and the meaning that it has for me now is just so much more. So hope this helps.